everyone, and welcome to the return of the show. I am Ben, that's Jose, and this is the show where we accidentally record the entire podcast and then realize that a microphone was turned off.
Yeah, so we've had a very good conversation, and right at the tail end of it,
we were
my microphone wasn't picking up anything, and because I'm such a quiet talker, his mic doesn't really pick me up.
Nope.
Welcome to audio world.
Welcome to. Sometimes mistakes happen in the audio world. We are this is a hobbyist group, essentially.
I think this is also just definitely playing the part that we should have recorded yesterday, regardless of my shit going on of life. But yeah.
Oh yeah, no, this is karma just coming up back and forth. First we were off schedule, then I'm like half asleep at the wheel at the soundboard and just leaving things muted. Welcome to the show, everyone. So, real quick, let's just get into the beef and banana. Why beef and bananas?
Man, you really are.
Man, you know what I really want? That sounds great. Beef and bananas. Oh, I need to sleep.
All right, let's actually try to speak.
Yeah, okay. We're talking. Yes, we are talking about our little group that has gone into the Feywild, and we're going to focus on them first a little bit because the story has been split. The story was never split. This is a phenomenal change that they did. The pacing's a lot better for this. I think we both agree. Again, like, how are you feeling about? I know we've already had this conversation. I know. So this is strange, but like, how are you feeling about like the actual split party dynamic with this?
I think it definitely helps with covering a bunch of story happening all at once. I've said, like I said before, split party is not something you usually see in D&D, but with stuff we'll either mention maybe or not. For storytelling wise for this and covering a lot of ground, I think it works really well. Yeah,
you normally always see people avoiding splitting the party for gameplay reasons, and also like it's impossible to tell two sped up stories when you split the party. Like you can't actually get anything done on a timetable in game as far as real world time when you split a party, so people do not do it.
Yeah.
But you can do that here, even if it was unintentional. The pace of the story is better, and it doesn't feel like we're losing weeks in the Feywild, and it also doesn't feel like we're losing weeks in the real world. So, like, we're doing a great job as far as how this is done. So, the Feywild team consists of essentially the couples, or the ship couples, I should say, because not all of them are solidified, and even, actually, you know what? Even Vax and Keyleth aren't solidified.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of...
We just had that one moment in season 1 where, like, Vax just pulls out just like, hey, I'm kind of into you.
It's like, we're about to die! This is horrible! Which, you know, actually, they did cut something from that originally that I think actually would have made it a lot better. Originally, Vax kind of lays it out of, like, hey, I said what I said. I meant it in the moment because if I died and I never said it, I would have regretted it.
Mm-hmm.
Come to me, you do that with whatever information you will.
Yeah.
And if you want me, you know where to find me. And he left it at that. It was this really sort of like beautiful moment where it allowed them to let the relationship play out at a different pace, where the ball was very much in Keyleth's court, and Keyleth had to figure out what she was doing and eventually would solidify that relationship.
Right.
They didn't really make it obvious that that's what happened in this.
Yeah, and I think the funny thing is, like, we really haven't had much of that since then.
It's like, I don't know if they were just like, people were upset that happened then. I'm just like, that's when it happened in the game, and it's important that that's when that happened in the game. But because of the way that the series is paced, it didn't have the reward of that moment originally.
Right.
So, like, I will say, we did get some good one-on-one time, but Vax is being, I don't want to say he's being a needy bitch, but he's being an edgy bitch for sure.
Yeah.
This entire time.
It's the edgy rogue archetype.
Edgy rogue. He's so edgy that the Feywild, a place of whimsical vibes, is like, you're not allowed here.
He gives Shadow the Hedgehog a run for his money. No one can give Shadow a run for his edginess.
No one. I mean, like, to me, Shadow. I can't. I have such a hard time drawing a line between Shadow the Hedgehog and the fan edits and fan VOs versus the actual character, because somehow all the fan voiceovers of Shadow are just like, yeah, he'd say that.
I'll just leave it to any dialogue he says in the Shadow the Hedgehog game.
Oh my god.
All right.
That was my first Sonic game, by the way. I should also preface first Sonic game, Shadow the Hedgehog. Yeah, the entire vibe that he's having in the Feywild is like kind of it's foreshadowing is like what it is. We are getting the idea that he's on a much darker path. He even says so much to his fellow edgy fighter, Percy, who is admittedly way less edgy because he's just kind of living out his childlike fantasies of being in the Feywild.
It's like being in the dream world, literally.
Yeah, it's I mean, the Feywild and like ideas of the dream world are always kind of linked. It's so strange. Like, I love Fey mythology. In my opinion, it's some of the best like folk horror that there is.
It's always a very very nice, interesting, sometimes unique thing. Like the way it can just go about.
Yeah, it's very like it's always been very Alice in Wonderland-esque. Everything about the Feywild. This is my favorite setting. I said it so many times in the previous recording, but I just really want to emphasize this is my favorite setting. This is hopefully not the last of the Feywild that we are seeing because we skipped a lot of really amazing story arcs that would have been great for us to have.
Yeah, so one of course being when I don't know if we should talk about it right now,
no,
but
we can bring it up
when Vex gets the bow and the whole father issue thing with like that.
Yeah.
About how for one the father's a prick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like show me the bow and then we'll show you the welcome you think you deserve. Like,
yeah.
Fuck him.
So originally, fans were really upset on Twitter because the moment that we all wanted finally happened of Percival de Rollo the Third. I'm not even going to try the rest, and I have been a part of this fandom for a very long time. Percy does the thing where he gives Vex a title as a flex in order to say, you need to respect her. And originally in-game, Matt Mercer didn't know what to do about this, so he folded. But the fact is that Sealder probably would have seen through it, but also something that, as much as we love that moment, I think a lot of people are forgetting that this actually does take agency away from Vex in her own storyline involving her father. So this has allowed us to be like, okay, you may have had the last laugh, but Vex has that bow. And when she shows up again, either when they go back to the Feywild for whatever other purpose that they have later in the campaign, or if your city comes back, I know I said the waking world, the material plane, and we show up there and you find out that we're heroes, you're going to have to eat shit.
Yep.
Which
I can't wait for it.
I will eat. I will eat when this happens.
Let the series cook, guys.
Yeah,
it's cooking good shit.
It is cooking really good shit. I will say this season is just there's something different in it. Like last season was good, but like I don't know if they put like special sauce in it.
Oh yeah.
Like they're nailing it.
They're
nailing it.
I'm loving every episode.
Yeah, and then the entirety of this is like the other major character that we are introduced to in the Fae is honestly a little guy, a little dude, just a mischievous boy, Garmale. So we had a conversation last time. He is a satyr.
Yep.
Or satyr.
I prefer satyr.
So the as far as he is concerned, what were your initial thoughts, and then what was your reaction when he was revealed to be not exactly a satyr?
Initial reaction? I could not care much. I really could. I was like, okay, cool. There's a fake guy in them. Sure, nice, awesome. Then the reveal part, I'm still not too sure about because of how much of what he'll play in the future role wise. But it was a bit surprising though that he was just being something else. He's
very in line with how Fae creatures exist, period. And he's honestly the best window that we have into the Fae, because some of the stuff that we've been denied is like seeing how the Feywild actually works in, I'm not going to say in game, because a lot of the stuff that's in the Wizards of the Coast game book is Creative Commons stuff that just exists in Fae mythology. So, like, the idea of, like, it's, like, you understand where you are in the Fae based off of the fact that, like, the sun and the moon just kind of stay still in the sky. So, like, there's a day part of the Fae, there's a night part of the Fae, there's a twilight part of the Fae. Over there, it's autumn, but, like, over there, it's winter. Like, that's, like, how some of the cool geography plays out, and it's a wonderful sort of dreamy-esque thing. But also, the creatures in it are just mischievous dudes, and sometimes they're mischievous and playful, and sometimes they're mischievous and will wear your skin.
And ruthless, yep.
Yeah. So, like, we don't get to experience a lot of this in here, but we had a much better look in the original campaign. And honestly, if they ever adapt campaign 3 into a true animation, we will be seeing a lot more of the Feywild then, and then it will become intrinsically more part of the story. But as far as its role in the story in campaign 1, it's much more about this is an alternate dimension and showing the fact that they have to be jumping between planes in order to get these things. Like, these are the lengths that these characters are going to in order to actually get the things that they need.
Yeah.
Which is absolute insanity. The and then him being a bigger dude, more powerful, we're going to leave that for later because he's going to be showing up more probably next season, honestly, because I said it to you beforehand, but he's actually probably one of the most important characters in the mythos of Exandria, period.
Yeah, and I had no idea what that means.
I'm just like, that little mischievous dude, really big deal. Really big deal. I promise you, really big deal. Yet he'll still carry the same vibe of being just a little guy the entire time, which I have to give respect for. Speaking of just little guys, Pike's not dead.
Yeah. She
got skewered. She's fine. She's able to heal herself. We have now answered the question, can the cleric heal themselves? The answer is yes. The other question, though, of what was going to happen with Grog's sword, Craven Edge.
Yep.
You thought that this was pretty much par for the course.
Yes. So as like one of the main ideas was seeing what happened was basically the sword will come alive. But what we see happen, of course, was Grog's slightly corrupted or listening to it right here by the end, and he's walking towards Scanlan and Pike.
Yeah.
But he comes together and then manages to break the sword.
So the original pieces of this, and I've seen less outcry over this because I actually think that a lot of people agree that this was a good decision. Grog fucking died. Just dead. He was doing his thing. He was, honestly, in this moment, he was just chopping down monsters. The entire thing with Pike was, I have to issue a correction from last episode. Pike did get stabbed by Grog, but it was entirely by accident and wasn't even rushed on by Craven Edge. It was Grog trying to get out of a magical trap by throwing his sword that was attached to a chain and pulling him out of the trap.
Yeah.
And it skewered Pike in the process because he rolled a natural 1.
For those who weren't sure, we're talking about the campaign streaming.
Yes, the campaign streams. That's how it originally went down. The other way, though, was that, like, the sword, as he absorbed more blood, made him stronger and stronger and stronger, literally adding points to his strength, I think to a max of 30. Mm-hmm. And then once he hit that 30 mark, there would suddenly be a moment of shock and he had to make a constitution save. And if he failed it, he just flat out died.
Yeah. And what I mentioned for that was that storytelling-wise, that it works better for how they're doing it in the show than trying to adapt that rule set ability thing into from D&D.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that, like, I was so concerned about is, like, are they going to do a soft magic system or hard magic system? Because in season 1, it didn't seem like they could make up their mind. They've completely gone into soft magic with limited rules for really important spells. So, like, the way that they're doing this is, like, you understand that Pike has a basic set of combat stuff that she can do, kind of like a superhero.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for Keyleth. So those are our 2 main casters. But as far as using magic to solve problems, if it's outside of that scope, they either introduce a new thing that can do it, or they just do whatever makes the most sense for the story within the rules that they've already set. And in this case, Grog not dying, but instead being incredibly weak, and then his weakness directly playing into the conflict of the rest of the story, miles better. Especially now that we're getting introduced to Kevdak.
Yeah.
And before we got to talk about Kevdak, we got to talk about the man, the boy. we gotta talk about Uncle Wilhand.
Yeah.
Grandpa Wilhand.
Papa Wilhand.
Papa Wilhand. he's just a good dude.
Yes.
I said this beforehand, but like this is a character that we barely had time with in the stream. I've only ever actually gotten to know him over the comics, so seeing him animated and voiced,
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
So I'm gonna be real brief. The best part about these 3 episodes was the wholesome moments with Wilhan and Vex and Vex's half sister. But yeah.
Yeah, he's just a wholesome dude. I love him, and then honestly, the thing that makes me love him more is the way that he ties into Grog's backstory.
Yeah, which is I could not figure out. I mean, I could not think of what his backstory would be like, but this whole thing with Grog like, blew my mind with how amazing it was.
Well, because originally he's just displayed as that's the dumb barbarian.
Yep, he was the archetype to a T, I did not like that.
And here's the thing, he is like this is Travis Willingham's first D&D character. So like a lot of people, when you have your first D&D character, you make the fantasy racist stereotypes for your character.
You follow the build to a T.
Yeah,
they're stat wise, whatever.
My first one was a drunk dwarf. So yeah, like it's
what was the first character I created? I know the first one I used was a pre-made character sheet, but
the first one you created yourself. That's a different vibe, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that moment of like you can see like first character people are slipping into archetypes. I mean, like even Keyleth is a stereotypical druid. Like she's like, oh, I love all the trees.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna talk to every single plant. Like
Scanlan's the flirty bard.
Yeah, Scanlan's the horny bard. Like we get really, even though they are the fantasy archetypes for D&D, it is baffling how good the storytelling is in combination with it. And like Grog's entire thing, were you expecting him to have this much of a murderous past?
Not necessarily, no. Seeing how everything goes, we can definitely tell it was one of Kevdak's influence as well as other people going along with it. And I don't know how would you even word it. Just like nature,
nature. I don't
instincts.
I don't know if I would say nature or instincts because Grog is a soft boy.
Yeah.
Like he can be violent, he can be scary, but at his heart he's a soft boy. He's like, I'm not cutting down an old man who like is wearing a thing of him with his little granddaughter, and like he's like, I'm not doing that. He's not fighting. Like also we're not even in the, like he's barely in the town.
Yeah.
He's like on the outskirts. He's got nothing, and Kevdak is like, you show weakness, and then the entire thing is like Grog.
Kevdak basically leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, Grog decks his cousin, Kevdak's son, and Kevdak
beats the absolute shit out of him and leaves him to die.
Those fucking Titan Stone Knuckles.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That opening scene, just like, I'm gonna grab this head.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a neck anymore.
No warning, by the way. It just happened.
My jaw hit the floor when that scene dropped. I was fully like, oh, we're doing a different arc that was in here, and they combined what was essentially an arc that was a sacking of a farm town outside of Westrun into this moment of like, oh, it is that sacking of a farm town, but Grog's doing the sacking, which was really good characterization. It really let us know like how deep Grog was in it, because Grog was cutting down civilians.
Yeah, and this was according to the dialogue from Kevdak, it's one of the first times he went on a raid with them.
I think so.
Well, at least very early on.
I think it's early on. So like in greater lore, it's also implied that Grog's father is dead. And Grog's father was considered weak.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if Grog's father was perhaps killed on a raid because he was weak, or if Kevdak offed Grog's father for similar reasons to how we see him beating the shit out of his son later in the episode.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he did off his father.
Because I feel like story-wise, it would make the most sense of like, this is the person that killed your father, Grog, and then you had to live under his rule, and he was a tyrant to you. It makes sense for Grog to get his comeuppance with that.
Also, like from the way that they play it out, like if you're against me, try to challenge me, and if you fail, that's on you.
Yeah.
And then it's like he could have easily either challenged Grog's father or anything like that. Like it really does fit with Kevdak's tyrantry.
I think I think it may have been a challenge actually, because the entire setup that we get at the end of this episode is Grog challenging Kevdak essentially to a one-on-one.
Yeah.
Which, okay, what is their plan? What's the play here? Because everyone right up before that is like, Grog, don't do it, you'll die. And I don't think Scanlan or especially Pike would just let him do that.
Absolutely. So, just like I brought up, this is Grog's shonen protagonist arc.
Yes. He's gonna defeat Kevdak with the power of friendship. So, question, is this gonna be just like he's fighting for the little guy and then like as previously stated by Wilhand, it's going to turn into a, like, you're going to suddenly experience stimulation, your muscles are going to awaken, which that could be a very cool moment if they animate it correctly and they build the tension correctly.
Really would be. Great. Now I'm even more excited for next week.
I know, but it could also be really... on the flip side, it could also be really silly if he's like, it's for my friends, and then it's like little power of friendship muscles.
Yeah.
Which they have to ride a line with that. I do wonder, though, if Scanlan and Pike are going to try and fight dirty with him.
I feel like that would happen, but I also feel like I know Kevdak would also call like bullshit about how that whole thing is. But that's how it always is with like a one-on-one challenge type thing.
Yeah, if you try to fight dirty in a one-on-one, like you're going to get caught. I feel like
you'll win, but then you'll get downloaded so hard.
I feel like what's going to happen is they're going to try it, they're going to get ousted, and then either two things. Either power of friendship's muscle awakening, or the rest of Vox Machina finally shows up, and it's going to be like the Gondor scene where they fucking ride in and just clean shot, because now you have two vestiges with the twins.
You know what I'm actually thinking now?
And a gun.
Yeah.
A gun's a big deal.
What I'm thinking now is that, crap, I don't remember what they gave Grog's cousin's name, but I feel like he might either step in and like back up Grog, or like if anything, Grog might disband the herd.
I think that he is a potential ally. For sure, the way that everything's set up. He's very much like the entire deal that Kevdak has made with Ubrasyl is super not going in the herd's favor, and it doesn't seem like he's the only person in the herd to notice this. So that's the entire reason why he gets punched and beaten down, is like, we should not be doing this. We should be hunting the dragons instead, making them bow down to us. There's no reason for us to be dragging them all this treasure. And if we keep doing this, we are going to die.
And before he finishes, Kevdak just goes right in, stalks him.
Titanstone Knuckles are no joke. I'm so excited to see Grog with that shit. That's gonna be so good. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the Kevdak fight. I am so like the way that cliffhanger worked completely left me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
I'm upset.
I was furious. Yep.
I'm very upset. I don't want to wait till next week, but we gotta on this one, and I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. Don't make me wait like that. That being said, we did meet another character that I personally have been very excited for us to meet.
Yep.
And that is Kalie. So Kalie is, so first of all, fun fact for everyone that is not familiar with Campaign 1. Kalie was traveling with what used to actually be Scanlan's group, and they cut that storyline. So
the way this show has it is that they're another traveling group who happen to hear of Scanlan's magical performance and stuff. I will say, the small cut of like asking for the autograph. And that was super fun.
Well, I can't get over this, because this group, when they were originally introduced, they were introduced much earlier in the campaign. They were actually invited as guests. It was either to the Whitestone Palace, or it was to Greyskull Keep.
Yeah.
Which those are the two essential bases throughout the original campaign. And they proceeded to steal all the silverware. So originally, that goblin was the leader of the troop. That orc was the leader of the troop, and Scanlan was like their right-hand man, but left because he just was like seeking other things, essentially, because Scanlan do what Scanlan do.
Yeah. And
this group eventually came across Kalie and picked her up, and she's been the Scanlan replacement, essentially.
They do have a good, very similar aesthetic.
Yeah, they have a very similar aesthetic. So I do want to ask you, once again, what do you think Kalie's role in this is going to be? Because with that design amount of attention, she's clearly going to be a bigger character than just like, oh, we meet this gnome and then this gnome goes away.
Yeah. And once again,
we've had this conversation before, guys.
I do 100% believe she'll be a key player in the upcoming fight, either against just Ubrasyl or against the entire Chroma Conclave. But I do also, of course, believe that there will be a little bit more of a connection with Scanlan.
A little bit more?
Yeah.
So you originally said like, I think like, is that a romance option for Scanlan?
I mean, to me, that's a romance.
It is, yeah, like...
When I say a little bit more,
you're leaning into the romance.
I mean all the way.
And they're playing... The fact that you have that impression is very good because they're playing into how impressions work in campaign 1. Okay. So like the fact that was even that was conveyed means that they are conveying things to play out in a very similar way to stream. We'll be learning more about Kalie. I'm excited for us to figure out what that relationship is, how that's going to solidify itself. She's my favorite part of campaign 1, and she is my favorite part of Scanlan's character because she drastically informs all of his decision making going forward.
Yeah, like we see here, of course, that she claims that he was just going to run away again, like always.
Yeah, she's the reason why he played the hero and actually got people out of there.
Yeah.
Which, like, the amount of story that they're setting up for Scanlan, like, season 1, everything was about Percy.
Yeah.
And because we got the split party dynamic, we were able to focus on these characters so well for characterization and character development that, like, I feel like now in the animation, the characters are now starting to truly be the characters. Like, you fully are starting to understand backstories, everyone's place in the world, how the group interacts, what the group dynamics are. And like, this is just a phenomenal adaptation. I can't get over how good this season is in comparison to the other season.
This season really does feel like a full-on D&D campaign. Everybody's getting their own little bit of character development, history, story. And then, of course, you have the main goal.
Yeah. And it's peppered wonderfully throughout. I guess MetaPigeon is Critical Role's company for this. So I got to give MetaPigeon a like huge, just like, you're doing good.
Yeah, big kudos to MetaPigeon.
Big kudos to MetaPigeon, i.e. Sam Riegel, who's the creative director on this. Sam Riegel, you're doing a great job adapting your own story. So take that as you will. You already know that for sure.
You know how to do your story.
you do know how to do your story. Anyway, so next week we're going to be diving into figuring out all the rest of these characters and
the very last 3 episodes.
So where do you think that these are going to go? Because we also have one big loose end in all this, and that is the fact that it has been now well established that Ubrasyl is being helped by none other than Anna Ripley.
Yep. And I do believe that the last 3 episodes for this season will deal directly with Ubrasyl. We've seen Ubrasyl come back and forth a good amount of time. We've seen him in the Sphinx part.
He's killed a Sphinx. He's killed a Sphinx that Scanlan was
even
buddies
in the very first episode. I think he's one of the last dragons to talk or something like that. So like,
yeah,
like a small little bit of like foreshadowing possibly, but he's been back and forth throughout these past weeks. So I definitely think the last bit of this season will be directly dealing with Ubrasyl.
So as far as Anna Ripley is concerned, I'm concerned, but I'm also questioning if they will be ending her story here. Because originally we had nowhere near this much focus on Anna Ripley, and giving her this much focus as a foreground villain it feels like they're setting things up. But I'm worried that if we finish the Anna Ripley storyline, it will get messy, and it might essentially just shake things up for some major story beats that are supposed to happen later down the line.
Yeah, so we agree that we will. Part of the thing we discussed was that when Vox Machina realizes that Anna Ripley is helping them, that Anna easily gets escapes.
Yeah, she should easily escape. I'll be shocked if they finish it off. There's also another possibility, though, because in the campaign, they don't realize that Anna Ripley's helping the dragons until later on. So there's a chance that we might be seeing this, and because like even Scanlan, like it's like, I recognize that voice, but I don't know who it is.
Yeah, and Anna's positioned well behind the dragon from his point of view.
There's a solid chance that they just won't realize that Anna's been involved in this at all. That she's been fighting for power within the Chroma Conclave.
Honestly, I kind of like that though, like a secret villain in the shadows type deal.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Secret villains in the shadows. That's definitely the only role that will be played on. It's a D&D campaign. Matt Mercer always has things moving in the background, and honestly, we've already seen some of these things moving in the background if you're an eagle-eyed viewer and you know the story. Yeah, we're going to be getting there. Honestly, I think that there might be an additional reveal at the end of the third episode
Honestly,
12 here.
I can see that happening too.
I see us. There will be my prediction is that we're going to get hit by a different cliffhanger that's going to lead us into the next storyline.
Okay.
And that storyline has already been heavily alluded to, and you'll have to come back next week where I'll break down exactly where all that's been alluded to, because it's been there the entire time. And with that, thank you so much. If you liked this episode, like, comment, and subscribe. And also, if you are listening on the podcast feed, go ahead, leave us a review. And also, if you aren't following the podcast feed, it is the return of the show. You can find it on any of your podcasting apps. Do it now.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my call to action. This is the return of the show.
Don't forget your beef and bananas.
Don't forget your beef and bananas. Beef and bananas! Hey, it's Ben here. I haven't done one of these in a while, but just a quick reminder that if you are following, go ahead and make sure you leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher of choice. It does help people find the show. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. It is where all of our content is, and we're really close to monetization. Thanks.